Greetings, adventure. Welcome to the D20 Academy podcast. I'm Shiloh.
And I'm Brendan. Today is episode 68, How to Create a Compelling RPG Character.
Hey guys, today we are talking about creating awesome, compelling RPG characters for your game, whether it's a D&D or Pathfinder or whatever it is. Two character building experts are going to break down character arcs, character concepts, backstory, all that kind of stuff. You can follow us on Instagram at D20_Academy to keep up with everything we're doing here. Hop onto our Discord by DMing us on Instagram or commenting on our YouTube channel, D20 Academy. And if you are a GM who wants to learn how to build your own campaign, you can find a free 20+ minute video taking you through the whole process at D20Academy.com. Without further ado, let's get into the episode. Hey guys, welcome back to Brendan Has Replaced Gabe on the podcast.
It's official.
No, we just haven't been able to get Gabe on it recently. Hopefully he's still free to do the class rebuilds because we've been having a lot of fun with that. But, you know, Brendan's just way better. You know what I mean? So, no, I'm kidding. So, today we're going to be talking about RPG characters. Now, we've done a couple episodes on, like, characters before. Earlier in the podcast, I did an episode on character creation. Me and Gabe did, I believe it was episode 45, we did an episode called Player Characters, where we talked about kind of the basics, like what player characters are, and, like, the basics of, like, backstories and, like, creating them. But that was also more specific to D&D as well. Today, we're gonna be more specific and detailed, I think. We're gonna jump into more of the nitty-gritty. So if you're kind of a newer, someone who's kind of newer to the game, still trying to figure out like how the dynamic works between like the GM and the player, stuff like that, I would suggest checking out episode 45. If you're more of an experienced player or someone who's more familiar with tabletop RPGs, you want to enhance your characters. You want to build great, compelling characters with cool backstories, cool character arcs. That's what we're going to be talking about today.
Yeah.
Hi. So, why did we choose this topic, Brendan? You and I.
Well, you were just kind
You and me.
of, you asked me what I'd like to talk about today. And I just feel like something that I have really improved on is character backstories. Like looking at my very first character backstory, Landak. I'd say about a paragraph long. Half of it is spelling errors, and the rest of it is grammatical errors. While I look at my most recent character, Riley, it is 7 pages long, and it is definitely...
And but one of many documents in a folder dedicated to the character.
And, you know, it's just something that college English professors use as examples of great writing techniques. Not actually, but...
he's actually doing his thesis on his new character. Imagine. Brendan's actually majoring in literacy, in literature, and he's doing his thesis on his Star Wars character. Okay.
Not actually.
No, but...
I wish.
No, but actually, I mean, he should. Yeah, seriously. Brendan has always, like, back when we were in high school together, he would always, like, do projects about, like, the stuff that he was already doing for, like, D&D and stuff, which I always thought was brilliant, because he's already doing the work, so might as well also get a grade for it.
Yeah, I think we had a huge sophomore project, and it was create a world. It was like create a world of some sorts. I don't even know how it was all supposed to work, but it was like something about your passion. And I was already creating a D&D world, so...
Is that Dragons?
No, that's, that was, the one, shoot, what was it called? The one where you played a shepherd.
Yeah, okay.
It didn't turn out to be a good campaign, but it did turn out to be a good grade.
Let's go. Anywho, we're not talking about school today, thankfully. We are talking about characters, and I would agree. Brendan has, I think, a good balance between a lot of GM experience and a lot of player experience, right?
Mm-hmm.
I would say you have about 50-50. because you've been a player in my campaigns,
A lot.
all of my campaigns. Yeah, and then you've also GM'd a ton of campaigns. And obviously you're GMing the mini-series that we're running right now, and of course GMing another campaign. And right now I'm GMing Star Wars that you're a part of, and you were also a part of the Second Dawn campaign before that, the D&D one. So I'd say you have pretty good knowledge of both sides. And also, yeah, I would agree. You've completely grown in your character creation, but not just character creation or even backstory creation, but like adding depth to your character and making them like fully realized. You've definitely grown in that. And for me, who's really just now starting to like be a consistent player because of your campaigns, where I was only a GM before. I'm also starting to kind of get into characters and stuff. And okay, so we're going to talk about 3 different player characters today as examples as we go through these various topics. So one is Landak, who is Brendan's dwarven paladin fighter.
First D&D character.
First D&D character ever. Not ever, maybe, but basically. He played him for 2 years in my D&D campaign. Second character we're going to talk about is Riley, which is his current character in our Star Wars campaign, which you've been playing for over a year. And then my character in our current campaign, Philippocles, who, yes, his name is Philippocles, who, how long have you been playing
Maybe like
Dragonstone for?
6 months, maybe a little bit more.
Yeah, like 6 months. I think at the beginning of quarantine, around there, we started. Who's the longest character I've ever played. It's the longest time I've ever been a player in a campaign. So we're going to kind of use those examples. Now, we are not perfect role players. These are not perfect characters. But I think they're all strong, compelling characters that have shone in the narrative. And I think they all have different strengths and weaknesses and stuff that we can kind of point out to you guys to help you build, hopefully, a better character than any of these. Because we've all had to learn through these, but hopefully we can use their mistakes and their successes to teach you guys. Yeah. Okay. Can you give us a little rundown of your 2 characters?
All right. I'll start with Landak. Landak, he is a soldier in the Hammerhand Army, which I wouldn't imagine you would know about.
Since it's my world.
Yeah. But
Yep.
he lost a lot of his friends and family in the First Dawn. Sorry. And so he has a lot of scorn towards the enemy race in Shadow's previous world, the Zenthari. He definitely had a lot of like sandpaper rubbing together with when we teamed up with them, with what was his name? Nukas. They definitely didn't get along very well. But Landak was all around. He was a paladin, very charismatic paladin, friendly towards everyone except Zenthari.
Yeah.
He was really honestly just like the comic relief of the party.
Okay, yeah, so here's the thing, and I don't want to get into everything here because I want to talk about the different like aspects of him and each of these characters as we go along. I would say, okay, so Brendan is a very funny person. Brendan is a very comical, cartoonish person. He's a very big personality, and that's how I've always known him. I mean, we've gotten really close through D&D, but when we started playing D&D, like, we were friends. You know what I mean? But we were, like, super close, I would say.
Yeah.
I knew him, I went to middle school and high school with him, but also he was close friends with some of my close friends.
Yeah.
So, like we knew each other. We were pretty good friends, but, like, we were not best friends or anything.
No.
Whereas today, we're very close because of our games, for sure.
Yes.
But that's kind of... Brendan has always been, like, a very funny guy, and that's how I've always known him and stuff. And at the beginning of the D&D campaign and stuff, that's what you were.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, you built a character, and you were still, like, you were very funny and stuff. You weren't, I think, like, obnoxiously to the point where, like, you were taking away from the narrative.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, you named your character Buttface or whatever. And it draws out of... Because I feel like that happens a lot.
Yeah.
With groups that who are not on the same page with the mood and tone of the campaign, where someone will come with like their epic, edgy tiefling rogue character ready to dive into the complexities of murder and the ethics of that, and then like someone comes in with like Bodie McBoatface, you know what I mean? Just for and treats the campaign as like more fun and lighthearted. That happens a lot that I know of. You were never like that, but like, you know, you were more lighthearted and funny and, you know, kind of comical and stuff. But I would say, and I want to get deeper into this when we get to this portion, both you and Landak grew, I think.
Yeah.
Over the course of that campaign.
A year and a half.
Yeah, no, it was 2.5 years.
Wow.
2.5 years. I mean, you joined like 10 sessions in, so you weren't there at the very beginning, but you were basically there at the beginning. Like, now, I don't think anyone else in our playgroup listens to this podcast, so I'm gonna say it here. Landak is my favorite. What's my favorite character?
Ever, or
from that campaign?
Just from that campaign.
I don't know yet. These Star Wars characters are really good. In that campaign, I loved all of them, all the PCs. But Landak is my favorite because his arc and like his growth and stuff was so satisfying and like so fulfilling. And we're gonna get into this more when we talk about character arcs today. But like, you know, we both started. I was GMing for the first time. You were playing for the first time. You know what I mean? Like we both, as we both and everyone in the group really grew right over the course of that long campaign. Yeah. Like, oh man, I could talk about it forever. But anyway, that's Landak. Can you tell us just the basics of kind of Riley without diving into like world lore?
Yeah. It's the Star Wars universe. I'm already diving into world lore, I guess. But he's a pilot from the Empire who he got transferred from being a pilot to espionage, and he was kind of like this reporting in on the group, the party, and reporting them up to the Empire and stuff and what their actions were doing. And it eventually caught up to him, and so on and so forth, and stuff happened, and the party eventually found out the reason why he was doing all that and why he continued to keep doing that is because the Empire was he was promised he'd get information on his girlfriend that the Empire kind of separated the both of them because they were both in the Empire together. And I kind of wrote in story, I don't know if it's actually true or not in lore wise, but I wrote in the lore that that the Empire doesn't want the members to be like invading and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, eloping.
Yeah.
Yeah. And now I think you came into Riley like, you know, with all this past, like, you know, you've already grown so much as like a role player and character creator and stuff, you know what I mean, at this point. But even so, Riley has still grown and changed like a lot.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And you've kept adding to him and stuff and making him more complex and deeper and better and more compelling over time. So I think like they're both good examples because like Landak was like your first character, and you grew in your skills as he grew, and then like Riley, like you had a lot of experience and stuff, but like you're fine tuning Riley. You know what I mean? Like you're really fine tuning him. So my character Philippocles, he it's D&D. It's Brendan's homebrew fantasy world. He's based off of like Greek soldiers, obviously, like hoplites. And he is like cares all about being a hero. And his father went to war, so he had to help his mother growing up and stuff, and he just wants to be a hero and prove himself. And he's not the brightest. He's not on the smarter side, but he is charismatic and he's courageous, and very arrogant. And so we're gonna kind of dive deeper into these characters as we go through today. Let's start with the first step in creating a compelling character. If that's what you want to do, that's character concept. This is before you roll up a character sheet. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You have to know what you're building. So Brendan, let me ask you, what sparks a character idea for you?
Usually what I think would be cool, to be honest, I'd like, I remember like, for Land Actor, you had me flipping through the player's handbook at school at lunch, and I was like, the dwarves sound super cool. And that's just kind of
I
like...
kind of remember this.
That's just kind of like how it all, Land all started. I just thought, like, this is what like Lord of the Rings and kind of stuff, like, oh, that's what a dwarf is. I know what a dwarf is.
Right.
You know? But I think a lot of, like, media kind of stuff helps a lot with character creation.
100%.
Like, oh, I think Legolas is a really cool guy. He's like an archer. Dude, I want to play like a cool archer that's sliding around on shields and stuff. You know? Or maybe...
Dude, you know nobody can have a conversation about Legolas without mentioning that he slides on shields? I've realized this. I do it. Everybody does it. You can't mention Legolas and then somebody makes like a joke about it or references it.
They talk about the one scene where he slid on a shield.
Yeah, down in Helm's Deep, just shooting arrows. Okay. Anywho, yeah, okay. Legolas is a great example because when you learn about D&D, the first thing you do is build an elf ranger. That's just the truth. That's what everybody does. Okay, but what you said there I think was really important. Pull from popular media that you like.
Yeah.
Now, I would stay away from creating an identical
Yes.
character. So creating an elf ranger that is like literally like Legolas who like has daddy issues and you know, like I would stray away from like building basically that character but with a different name. His name is Megabloxless or something. But
Armalus.
sorry. That was I that's like all I do. Even when I'm a GM coming up with like NPCs, adventures.
Mm-hmm.
All I do, I mean, you do too. I know
Yeah.
you do. Brendan just pulls from One Piece, but I'm
That
kidding.
was for that. That was for that beginning part.
No, but pull from things you like get inspired by that 100%. Another thing I would suggest, art. Flip through whatever system you're using, whether it's D&D or Star Wars or Call of Cthulhu. Like, flip through the books, see if any of, like, the art pieces, like, speak to you. If you, like, see a character and you're like, dude, I kind of want to know more about that character. I kind of want to play that character.
Mm-hmm.
Art is definitely, like, a big inspiration. I mean, I'll build, like, whole NPCs around, like, cool art pieces I find on the internet of, like, these really interesting looking characters. It's kind of hard to say what sparks character concept because it's different for everybody.
Yeah.
Um,
And a lot of people
but
use
yeah, I mean,
character creators, where like
Yeah.
automatically generates a human fighter named Theodore Thornborn.
that was good actually. Wow. Brandon, what is your process in building out a character? Kind of, you know, like what do you pull from media, like to build out this character concept before you roll them up? What's kind of your thought process? Do you
think-
focus on like appearance or personality or what?
Probably personality. You know, I think that's kind of like the first. Just kind of like imagine how you would play them. You know, because you don't want to play something that you would be hard, or not hard, but like something that you wouldn't be able to play. Kind of like the common rule: you don't want to play a character that's more intelligent than you.
Yeah.
Because you can always play someone who's dumber, but it's hard to make up someone who's smarter. And always try to come up with a character whose personality is within your role playing capabilities.
Yeah, and I would also say push though the boundaries of your role playing capabilities with this character. Whether it's doing like a voice that you don't usually do or whatever it is, you know, something that challenges you as well. Because then you can grow and learn as a person as well while you're playing this kind of character.
Yeah.
I always encourage my players to create a character that has a different voice than them. One, so that way we know actually who's talking, the player or the character. But also, it helps you get into your character's head. Helps you roleplay better. And, you know, I think it's pretty important. The GM's doing it for 100 different characters, so you might as well do it for your one. Sucker. Okay. What should you take into consideration when coming up with a character?
Everything. Just, you know, definitely the personality, the look. You wouldn't want a scrawny barbarian, you know?
Unless you want a scrawny barbarian.
I guess, but I mean, the stats kind of have to match the physicality.
Oh, yes, 100%. Make sure your stats match your character.
And just kind of like, I feel like height is always a way to determine kind of like how the character, I don't want to say like, I guess how they present themselves almost. Like, imagine a taller character usually has a little bit more self-confidence, a little bit more heroic kind of personality, you know?
Yeah.
While a shorter character will be maybe a little more like more roguey and mischievous, maybe a little more
really old.
submissive. I mean, not saying that short people are submissive and tall people are dominant, but just kind of like that's just kind of like the, you know, like the high ground versus the short ground.
Yeah, I feel threatened as a 5-something, and you're like a 6-something. I feel threatened right now that you're coming after my height. No. Yeah, those are all really good. Yeah, I mean, I agree. Everything. Take everything into consideration. You know, just the basics. Make sure you know what kind of character you're building before you roll them up or before you start working on a backstory. We've kind of talked about Landak, but for Phil, I was into Greek mythology at that point in my life, so I made a Greek soldier. You know, inspired by Greek soldiers. That's what that was. That's why I built that character. That's literally it. So, you know, nothing special. Didn't have an epiphany in the middle of the night. Like, what a cool character idea. I've had a bunch of different cool character ideas. Most I've turned into NPCs.
Phil started
But
off
I
as
was
like
just-
the stereotypical like Greek soldier, but I feel like he's definitely evolved
Yeah.
into his
For
own
sure.
person, you know.
Oh, yeah. I mean, but yeah, that's how I came up with Philip. Also, me and Gabe, there's a time like we were making like jokes about like how you could like pronouncing English words like how the Greeks pronounce things. So, you know, like bicycles?
Yeah.
If it was Greek, it'd be pronounced bicycles.
Basically.
Or like popsicles would be pronounced popsicles. And so that was super funny to me. And Philippocles, I mean, come on, that's a funny name. And Phil for short.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's a lot of reasons I chose that name. One, because like I feel like Philip is a very like princely name. But Phil is not. Phil is kind of like a dopey name. And he is kind of like that. And just the Cleese is just funny. But yeah, that's kind of what inspired him. What about Riley for you? What made you decide on Riley, this human pilot well, not ex-Empire, but
The name or
no, everything.
well, I mean, he was a fighter pilot, so I wanted him to be short. Because, I mean, just fighter pilots are usually shorter than normal people because they have to fit in small cockpits. Which, I mean...
I love how this is turning into the height episode.
He's 5'10", which you obviously wouldn't see as short.
He's 5'10".
Yeah.
That's not short, okay? Maybe in Utah it's short. Go
But
ahead.
he's by my standards,
Oh my gosh.
He's shorter than me, or a character that I would normally play, other than Landak.
Dude, you played a dwarf.
But Landak was tall for a dwarf.
Why are we talking about height?
But
Okay, so listen. Go ahead.
so I think Riley really started off as like, I just watched Solo for the first time, and I really wanted to be like Han Solo.
Yeah, I mean, who doesn't? He's such a good character.
Literally, my Chewbacca, Jam C.
Yeah, who's another one of the
Yeah,
players.
I mean, it would just turned out to be just like Chewbacca. I mean, it turned out to be just like Han Solo in the beginning, until I started adding more character stuff to him. Like our session 0, I was like, "This is I'm Han Solo, but a redhead, a ginger."
Yeah. Yeah, so what we did on a session 0, we kind of talked about, like, you know, you guys were going to start with a ship, right? So we're kind of like, let's kind of like build like a crew, you know what I mean? So you were like, oh, I want to be a pilot, and then Gabe was like, I want to be like a techie slicer mechanic character. You know, John was like, I want to be like a big brawler bodyguard. Zeke was like, I want to be like a sniper, you know, like bounty hunter kind of character. And then, you know, brother was like, oh, I want to be like a force sensitive, more like, you know, Jedi fighter kind of guy. And so that, like, so we were discussing like those things because everyone wanted to kind of like a different role within like the crew. And so we were like, well, we needed a pilot, and you thought you wanted to be a pilot because Han Solo. And I remember, yeah, you were kind of like, you know, he's the charming, roguish pilot kind of guy, right?
Which he's not really anymore.
Not at all. You know, I mean, he's still a great pilot, but I feel like he's evolved into much more of a complex and deeper character than that.
Yeah.
I would say one of the NPCs is more of like that kind of charming, sarcastic kind of guy. And he's not a pilot. He's very bad at flying, but he is kind of fits that kind of thing. Yeah, I think you kind of grew away from that pretty quickly and kind of found him. Okay, let's talk about backstory. How you went from one grammatically incorrect paragraph to 7 pages and a folder.
It really evolved.
Actually, let's not talk about the folder yet. Let's just talk about the backstory.
Which one? The paragraph?
Riley and Landak and both.
Landak is really short. I feel like a lot of Landak stuff I really just kind of kept in my head. Never really updated his character backstory stuff. Like, but yeah, he definitely was very two-dimensional, I feel, in the beginning, and Landak eventually had some form of three-dimensionality towards the end. Like, I definitely got a little more. I was very, very scared to roleplay. I don't know why when I was playing Landak. I
mean, it was a new group and stuff. So
I wanted to do like a Scottish voice, but I didn't want to because no one else was doing a voice other than Shiloh doing all the NPCs. So I just didn't do it because I thought I'd be like the weirdo doing a voice. And then by the time I was comfortable doing a voice, it was already kind of set in stone that Landak talks like a normal person.
Like a normal person? Dude, you can't say that. We have Scotch listening to our podcast. He means like an American. Please. Please forgive us. Yeah. We know what you meant. You meant not like a dwarf, because dwarves aren't
like
real.
Me.
Right.
And,
like a normal person.
I don't know.
We get canceled by the Scots.
You think the Scots would cancel us?
I don't think they listen to our podcast.
But yeah, I feel like a lot of the character development that came into his being was kind of put on him by you. Because I remember it was just like the whole like dragon frost breath kind of thing, you know?
Right. Well, you added that as your characters. You did have like a sickness that you were dying. So I just made that a part, you know, made it a thing.
But I definitely like, because part of his whole thing was that he was dying of the sickness. I totally forgot to mention that. That was like a big part of his whole thing. I was really proud of this at the moment. And I was like, wow, this is so cool. He was born with a rare condition that slowly kills him. and he had 1 year left to live. So his whole thing was he was searching for a cure. That was the whole reason why he went with the party. That's because he wanted to find a cure.
Yeah. We forgot about that real quick.
Yeah.
But anyway, so so let's talk about kind of that sickness thing. Like, what is important for you and your GM in your backstory? Now, when I'm GMing, I like my players to build long backstories. I require them to include at least 3 notable characters from their backstories, NPCs that I can work in. I really like including characters and their backstories into the campaign, into the story. That's something I love doing. I feel like it draws them in more. It makes their character care more about what's going on and stuff like that. And I think it's really fun and satisfying for both the GM and the player when, like, you know, something from their backstory is, like, used and fulfilled. And so I require my players to do that. Nobody has to, but that's what I do. I like big, long backstories. Or at least detailed backstories and like notable characters and stuff, and I always want them to include things to put into their backstory that the GM can use, and I think that's important. To not necessarily like talk with your GM, you can definitely do that, but just like leave open story things to your GM. Riley has so many of these. Brendan opened a ton of story loops in his character, in his backstory, for me to work in, and I've like worked in all of them.
Yeah. Yeah, a lot's going on.
Yeah, there's a ton of things. There's like, you know, obviously he's working for like the Empire and stuff still, so we're gonna have to deal with that. He doesn't know where his girlfriend is. He's trying to find her. He hasn't seen her in a long time. He had a friend who he thought died in a crash, but he's not super sure what happened to him. He had an old boss who was kind of like a surrogate, like uncle to him after his parents died, who was pretty awful to him, and that he kind of wants to get back at and stuff like that. He just opened all these kind of things in his backstory, and I was able to work them all into the plot. And I think it works really well.
Yeah. Just part of the thing that I kind of regret adding all that, because I feel like a lot of the players I've talked to in the same thing, they all feel like Riley's the main character.
Yeah.
Which I feel bad about, because I want them all to feel like this is our story, you know?
Yeah.
But I mean, they also could have added to their backstories.
Yeah. Yes. No, I agree. I feel like the same in Brendan's campaign. We'll get to Philippocles, but yeah, I mean, no one is like the main character, and I personally don't feel like I'm favoring like someone over the others or whatever. But if you give me a backstory with tons of cool stuff in it and lots of stuff that I can work in, and you're a good role player and all that kind of stuff, like, I'm going to give you like stuff and work your character more into the story, you know?
Yeah.
And I've worked every character's stuff into the story, you know what I mean? And not every player does want to be in the spotlight a lot, you know what I mean? But I would agree. I feel Riley does kind of seem like the main character. He is also kind of like the human. He's the only human. He's like he's like the pilot and stuff. He is kind of a Han Solo character. Maybe not in personality, but like, you know,
he's the one you'd relate with
vibe.
The most.
Yeah, so he does kind of fit that main character thing. Even though I think we do focus on a lot of the other characters and stuff as well. But I mean, yeah, as a GM, just be careful. Try not to favor one of your players too much or whatever. But also, like, if a player's working hard, like, and building a really cool character, like, work with them. You know what I mean? So it's a balance you have to strike, and we're still trying to figure that out. For Brennan's campaign, I'm playing Philippocles, right?
Yeah.
And I do not have a backstory. Okay, hear me out. First of all, Brennan doesn't require like super big backstories or whatever. No. He was like, okay, we're just playing this Friday, like, cook up something, you know what I mean? Some basic stuff, so I wrote like a couple paragraphs. And I didn't have a ton of open story loops, I would say, like just 1 or 2 that Brendan has begun working into the story. But yeah, I have also kind of felt like the main character. But that's kind of because there's a lot of, because we're playing online, it's easy for people to get distracted and to
Yeah.
kind of like doze off. You know what I mean? That's just a fact of life. And so I was constantly like, you would do your part as a GM, and then you'd open things up to the players, and no one would do anything. So I constantly, because I've been a GM, I've been in your position, so like I was able to relate to you, and like I had to start getting things going and stuff.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? To keep the pace going and to help you out as a GM, because I've been in your place before. So then it kind of worked out though that I was talking a lot and stuff. And anyway, that's not what we're talking about right now. But yeah, so both of us are trying to like figure out that balance and stuff in our campaigns. Also, I am like the human fighter, like also, you know what I mean?
He's the
Okay,
Aragorn,
good.
if you will.
I mean, yeah, but like dumb.
Yeah.
How does a backstory make a character stronger and more compelling?
I always kept Landax. I never changed Landax, not even once, not even a word. As you could tell by the grammatical and spelling errors. I never touched it, and at the time I thought it was taboo to go in and edit your backstory and change things, because I thought like you as a person, you can't go back in time and change things and make things.
Right.
So like I got bored of Landak.
Mm.
Which I know sounds impossible. Because Landak was a great character.
It was the
But,
best.
You know, I felt like I wasn't really doing much in combat because, Divine Smite one-shot the enemy. It's over.
Oh god. Yeah. All right. Here we go. Please don't turn this into a rant of paladins, because I will. I will rant about paladins if you lead me there.
But eventually, I also during what is it? Talking encounters. I feel like that really wasn't Landak's place. I feel like
Right.
that was kind of the time for other characters who may not be as good in combat to shine. And also as a new player, I didn't really know what to say. And even now, as an well
Yeah.
balanced. I don't want to say well balanced, but well experienced player. Even now, a lot of times, like the DM will say something, or other characters will say something that I just have me speechless, so I don't even know what to say in return to that. But
Right.
that happened a lot with Landak. Like I did not know what to say with Landak at all. So, but with Riley, whenever I felt like I was starting to get a little bored of like that idea that he has or who he is, I would just add more to his backstory.
Yeah.
Hence the folder.
Yeah. We're gonna get to the folder in a second. Now, he did not change like major things
No.
or whatever, and he always talked to me to make sure things were fine. Because he didn't want to screw up anything that I had been planning, right, with his character and using his backstory and stuff. And here's the thing: you don't have to. I mean, talk to your GM and stuff, but I believe that you don't have to have a character complete by the time you start playing. In fact, Gabe doesn't like writing backstories till after the first session because he wants to get a feel for his character. He needs to roleplay as the character before he can understand who they are and stuff. Different players have different things or whatever, but don't think that you're done. You know what I mean? Don't get stuck and static. I'm definitely considering also retouching up Philippocles' stuff. Because right now we're playing One Piece. We're gonna jump back into Dragonstone once you're finished, and making him more complex and adding more depth to him and stuff. So yeah, I mean, your work is never finished.
Yeah.
You can keep adding, keep making him more him or her or your character just stronger and more compelling. I don't mean stronger like mechanically, like more powerful. I mean like stronger like narratively. So going back to my question, Brendan, now that you touch up Riley's backstory and stuff, how does a backstory make a character narratively stronger and more compelling?
Oh, well, I feel like having a backstory is you obviously want to have childhood experiences, because childhood experiences, those early experiences, are what define a person.
Yeah.
And definitely with those childhood experiences with Riley, his mother dying, his father abandoning them, and having to be raised by this hut lord Definitely made him very hard exterior, kind of hard to get into the his actual personality, which kind of made him a great like spy infiltrator, you know.
Murderer.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he's able to brush things off, and that otherwise a normal person who had a normal childhood would not be able to.
Yeah. Also, we're playing in the Age of the Empire, so after Episode 4, before Episode 5, after the destruction of the first Death Star. And it was important for each player to kind of figure out, like, their relationship to the Rebellion, to the Empire, and their views on that, because there's a galactic war going on, you know what I mean? And a character's view on that is really important, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And so, with Riley's backstories, I mean, everyone's backstories, but specifically Riley's because he has close ties with the Empire, him creating a backstory let Brendan understand what how his character viewed the Empire, the Rebellion, the Death Star, all that kind of stuff, right? Because of his experiences, his character's experiences, which are going to be way different than one of the other player characters' experiences. Like, that defines how he views the Empire and stuff, at least at the beginning of the campaign, right? And that's also very important, right? A backstory can help you understand how your character views the world around them, right?
Yeah.
All right, let's get to the Riley folder. Let's talk about fleshing out your character, right? So if you have a character sheet for them, you know who they are, you have the basics of their personality, maybe like their ideals, bonds, flaws, a backstory, fleshing out a character, right?
Yes.
Adding the padding, adding the flesh to this skeleton, these muscles that you have. The finishing touches. Can you talk about the Riley folder?
In the Riley folder, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 different things, but only 3 of them really matter, because the other 4 are like Photoshop things I've done, or various like art kind of stuff, or art pieces I've done.
Yeah, but I would argue that they do matter.
So I have Riley's backstory, and then I have another one that I call Riley's Will and Testament, which isn't really much of a will. It was just kind of a way for me to expand on his different debts and all various like places he's had contact with, and all the planets he's been on, and various stuff like that, and like his bounty, of course, because obviously like different crime syndicates, because he was going after crime syndicates, put various bounties on him, and just kind of it was kind of a way for I don't know, if maybe Shiloh to kind of see who. It was kind of like a list in the very end of who gets what, of what characters are most important to him. That's the kind of way I see it. And then I have his main backstory, where I just wrote out his backstory, and then I felt like because of he was going all this the last, I think it was 6 or 9 months of all the stuff he's been doing is trying to get his girlfriend back. But what did his girlfriend really mean to him? And to help Shiloh, if she was ever to play her, how her personality would be. So I went ahead and wrote, what is this, 2 pages of a backstory for her. And it just kind of went on from her childhood experiences to like the most recent events that Riley knows about with her. I obviously didn't put anything like where she went after the Empire took her, you know.
Right.
But those.
And okay, go ahead.
I was just saying those 2 documents, the Will and Testament and the girlfriend backstory, really helped me kind of determine what she meant to Riley and what obligations Riley has.
Another thing we have here is he did a drawing in Photoshop of his character, kind of as the visual depiction of him, which is fantastic. Once again, just helps you visualize the character more, right? He also did an amazing drawing. By the way, this is Photoshop with a trackpad, and it's amazing, of him and his girlfriend in like the snow. I most likely before they got separated, which is just really.
Yeah, my idea with that one.
And then. Good.
My idea with that one was kind of be like, because I was going to bring out in the middle of, as like a handout, you know, in the middle of the session, but we got, that session got delayed, and I was just so excited to share it with you guys. I went ahead and shared it with you guys. It was kind of like, I was kind of hoping it'd be like a piece to expand more like within the
Mm-hmm.
story, and maybe for the rest
Right.
of because I feel like the rest of the characters, obviously he's talked about it, and he did lash out a huge thing that a few sessions ago. I think they don't really understand the story between them, the both of them, and why he cares so much about her. You know, so I was gonna kind of use that as
Yeah.
a way to get into that conversation, but again, it
Mm-hmm.
doesn't have to happen.
Another one is a really cool like Photoshop thing where like he took the thing he's been using for character art and then he like cut him out so it's just a silhouette, and then in the silhouette he put like this
Yeah, like various defining
these
events.
yeah, these images of defining events from the internet that like represent kind of like different moments in his life, like when he crashed, and then when he got his ship, and then when he met JMC and stuff like that. Super cool, super cool. And then the other one is like a trailer he made for like O'Reilly movie.
I don't like that one very much.
But it's like he takes clips from like Solo and like other movies and stuff, and he made like a trailer for like a Riley movie, which was really fun. But let's talk about kind of this the background that you made for your girlfriend Robin. So, first of all, I would like to say that this is one of the best backstories I've ever read. Brendan thinks it's one of the best backstories he's ever written. In fact, we like it so much, he's like, if my character dies, I'm just going to play her. Because she has such a cool story.
This was definitely post Riley, so that definitely is a little bit better than Riley's, but it doesn't have as much context in it, you know, as much as.
But I mean, it's such a good backstory.
But it's kind of like
but yeah,
a classic story, or it's a good story.
But it's helped me introduce her into the game and stuff, and like what her personality is like and her past and stuff like that. So because she's such an integral part to Riley's story, like Brendan writing this backstory for her helped him understand her more, and then me understand her more when bringing her in as an NPC. And that's really important. It's really enhanced that storyline. Also, if we want to jump back to Riley's backstory real quick, something that's really cool is he wrote it like an interview between him and death. Like if he was close to death at one point, he was knocked unconscious or whatever, and then death was like asking him about like his life, to like look back on his life and stuff. And he writes it like a conversation between the two of them, which is a super interesting way to do a backstory. I've never seen anyone do something like that before, and I think it's really cool. It would also gives Riley like a voice, because he writes it in like Riley's voice, like the way that he speaks and stuff. And so I assume that also helps you like figure out kind of how he speaks and stuff, and what he cares about and stuff like that. And that was really cool. That's really cool. I think it's a fun prompt to try. If you can't really figure out how to, if you're stuck on your backstory, like make it an interview. Nice. That's fleshing out. So obviously he's fleshed out his character a lot. He's created these other backstories of his will, his character's will and stuff. But I think it's all just helped flesh him out even more, add more and more depth to him. And he's nowhere near, finishing a character arc or anything. Like, he has not fallen stagnant. I think his even after playing for a year, his character is still, and his drive and motivation stuff is still, not unresolved.
I don't think there's really, and anything's really been resolved, in like as in terms of like,
all
these doors have been.
But I mean,
opened.
opposed to Landak, right? Who you were saying you were kind of getting.
Landak really just kind of had
bored
one
of and stuff.
arc going on. I feel like versus Riley has multiple different like things going on in his life.
Yeah. Okay, let's talk about character arcs. Okay, this is the final thing we're going to talk about in the episode. This is kind of a weird and difficult topic to talk about. Tabletop RPGs, they are such a unique form of storytelling because they are real-time, collaborative stories. So it's not just one person sitting at their computer and typing out a story that they've plotted out and they have planned and they have full control of everything. Yeah, the GM is kind of like, refereeing and kind of running it, but everybody else makes decisions that can impact the story and it plays their characters how they want to, and they are the main characters. And so, like, building like a satisfying, a solid character arc is way different than how you do it if you were just a single writer, right? Building the character arc for the main character of your story or book or movie or whatever, right? However, characters in tabletop role-playing games can 100% still have character arcs, and actually, in some ways, it's so much more satisfying because of how much work it takes
Yeah.
on the GM side and the player's side to naturally like create a character arc for the character. I mean, it's really fulfilling. Right? I mean, would you agree? I think it's
Yeah.
I think it's fantastic. And once you start delving into a deeper level with your characters, not just like, okay, like I'm a fun elf druid and these are my spells and I just go through the story just, doing druid things or whatever. And what if you want to get to the next level of characters and stuff, like character arcs are the most important. Brendan, this is kind of a difficult question to answer, but in your opinion, what makes for a good character arc?
A satisfying ending and a very high climax. Like, I feel like there absolutely has to be a climax, maybe even multiple climaxes, which I feel like that's going on with Riley. He has had multiple climaxes.
Right, because also it's such a longer form storytelling.
But
I mean, I would say growth, change, transformation. And that's one of the reasons backstory is so important. It dictates how the character is when you start the campaign.
Yeah.
What their view on the world is. What their personalities are like, if they have any vendettas or fears or people they hate or things they hate.
Maybe in the end of the campaign, write a front story. The opposite of a backstory.
Yeah, I mean, I think that'd be a really fun activity if you finish a campaign to write or finish his backstory, right? Like write the rest of the characters' backstory, write what happened in the campaign and how they've changed and stuff.
Oh man, trying to turn that Riley document to a novel, and the folder a book series.
But yeah, character arcs are kind of strange. Here's kind of what needs to happen. You as a player need to be 100% in and devoted to this character arc. It will happen. It gets even better if your GM is also in and thinking about it and creating stories and stuff for it and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I am so in. All I care about is the character arcs of the PCs as a GM. I build the whole character, the adventures and everything. I mean, around some cool ideas and stuff like that, but mostly around how it's going to change them as characters. And that's super fun for me. And of course, as a player, all I care about is character arcs.
Yeah.
Just as a nerd storyteller, I just love good stories and satisfying arcs. And so that's what I care about a lot. So let's kind of talk about a land act here. Okay, well, actually, before we do, how can the player and GM work together to create a character arc?
I think discussion between the character and the GM, the player and the GM.
Yeah.
Just kind of like what direction. I feel like every once in a while the GM should check in and be like, what direction do you kind of want your character to go in? Because the DM kind of has ultimate say on the path. Not ultimate say, but like the DM is the one who paves the road.
Right.
The players are the ones who kind of map out the road, but the DM is always the one who is always going to be integrating different parts of the story together. Be laying down that asphalt, So I mean, Philippocles could be like how with your dad, you could have been like, oh yeah, my dad, I'm looking for my dad, and that could have just been like, okay, and never brought up your dad ever in the campaign, I feel like that wouldn't have been very satisfying for you, So I feel like the DM and the player should be talking about where the direction of that character is going.
Yeah, I think having conversations is great. Me and Brendan have had conversations, definitely. Me and some other players have had conversations about the characters. But honestly, mostly, it's been, natural. Like, we've just, we're able to, feel each other's, okay, I kind of see where you're going with this. And you're kind of like, okay, I see where you're going with this. And we know each other really well. We've played together for so long that it's easier for us to kind of like understand what the other person's going for and like work with them with that just naturally. It takes a experienced gaming group who like know each other really well and stuff, but there's nothing wrong with having a conversation like with your GM about like kind of what you want the direction you want your character to go. We're not saying like physically like I want them to go to the 9 hells to do this. I mean like character wise, arc wise. Let's talk about Landak. As we mentioned before, he was kind of a funnier. He stayed funny. I mean, he didn't lose his personality over the course of the story. But I mean, he grew so much.
Yeah.
And in a weird way, it's hard to put that into words. Like how he grew, and like what his character arc was, and how he changed.
Mm-hmm. I definitely agree.
It's not always easy. Just like even like in your favorite movies, right? And stories, it's not always easy to explain how the character, like what the character's arc was. You know, it wasn't. Sometimes it's as simple, and not that this is not as powerful, but just like learning forgiveness, or learning to let go, or whatever it is, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, yeah, him going from more of a lighthearted thing to like understanding like the realities of war and death and the consequences of his actions.
Yeah.
And maturing in those aspects as a leader and someone who suddenly has to start paying attention to how their actions affect others in the world.
Absolutely.
And that's a transformation. He started out very funny and more carefree, and he just loved like killing things, and he was really out against the Zenthari and stuff.
But in the end, he ended up siding with them.
Yeah, he forgave them. He had to learn forgiveness, all that kind of stuff. And once again, I inputted like a specific NPC also that he had a relationship with that like helped him learn forgiveness, because she was also struggling with that as well from her story.
Yeah.
And stuff like that. So once again, as the GM, like, and the player, you guys can like work together, right, to make this arc satisfying. Now, Riley's arc is not done.
No.
But I mean, let's talk about like, can you just talk about like how much he's already changed and kind of where his arc has brought him?
I still think he is a little secretive, but he definitely was a lot more secretive. Obviously, he told in the beginning of the party a total BS story of who he was and everything.
Yeah.
The party, I mean, his real name isn't actually Riley. That's actually his, like, calling number in the Empire.
Yeah, his call tag or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But, just going through that phase, and then, I totally lost my train of thought. I'm sorry. He's just going through that phase of beginning to trust the party more, because I feel like he's always kind of had this, I feel like a theme going on in kind of his backstory is that people he creates a bond with, people he cares for, always end up leaving his life. So he doesn't want 100%. He doesn't want to care about anyone, because he doesn't want to lose anyone else.
Yep. He's very self-preservation focused.
He's
multiple times in the first arc, he ran away from a battle when it looked like things were turning bad. He abandoned the other characters.
Yes, and he does that sometimes still. He'll go back and try to save a character. I still feel like at the end he will. Self-preservation is his number one goal.
I would say the number one things are cowardice and selfishness.
Yeah.
He is selfish. He cares about himself. He cares about his own self-preservation more than anyone around him. He has been very closed off because of the relationships in his past, right? Like,
yeah,
people getting torn from him. Nothing works out for him.
No.
It's hard for him to love people, to care about people. The only one he can trust is himself. And he's cowardly. He wants to preserve himself. He doesn't take the challenging, the risky road. He takes the road that is easiest, that's going to keep him alive the longest. Mm-hmm. And boy, has he grown, you know? Into becoming really a leadership inspiration place in the party. Beginning to care very deeply about the party and his friends, and other NPCs as well that they've met along the campaign. And being a coward, learning to be brave and to take risks, and to put himself on the line for the people that he's beginning to love, you know?
And all that is just
And
very recent too.
yeah, and there's multiple examples of him doing that recently, and him doing the opposite at the beginning, being selfish and cowardly in the beginning, and being brave and selfless now. And that's exactly what a character arc is. That's exactly what transformation and growth is. And he's still screwing up. Literally, like 2 sessions ago, he was emotionally overwhelmed by a situation. He's got his heart really badly broken, and he abandoned his friends again. He was going to do the cowardly, selfish thing, or well, no, actually not. He was actually going to do something. He was actually going to do something very selfless, but it was kind of cowardly, and he was still over. Like, it was an emotional decision, not like a logical decision that he made. And the party had to like talk him out of it, and it was really emotional and very powerful. And the music always swelled at the exact right time too, so that was perfect. But he's still screwing up and learning and stuff, and his Chewbacca character, another one of the players, he plays a big droid brawler named Jamc. He's been like his best friend since the beginning, always trusted him and stuff, and yet Riley has constantly betrayed them. And also through the beginning of the campaign, he was keeping a secret from them that he was working for the Empire, and that came out, and they almost killed him and stuff, and they had to work on forgiving him. And this droid specifically, his best friend, really, his only friend, is constantly getting hurt by him, always making these decisions and stuff. And so Riley needs to like grow up, like, and get better for him, to preserve that relationship. This one friend who has always put his life on the line for him. And I mean, I'm getting a little bit emotional just talking about it. It's a very powerful character arc. But build those things when you build your character. Give them flaws.
Yeah.
Give them flaws. Give them things they're afraid of. Give them things that they regret, that they don't regret, but are wrong.
Yeah.
Give them these fatal flaws. I mean, cowardice and selfishness, like, those are bad things, right? But it's made Riley have a really satisfying character arc, and there's still so much more to go.
Yeah.
You know? For Philippocles, he started off, he's fresh off the boat. I mean, he's a highly trained soldier. He hasn't really seen war, though. He wants to be a hero. He wants to be heroic. He wants people to know him, to recognize his name. He wants to be just like his father, who went off to war. That was his whole deal at the beginning. Very arrogant. And he learned it's weird how the dice worked out this way, but his foolhardiness, him trying to prove himself, caused the death of one of the player characters.
Yeah.
The other player characters. This was not intentional. The dice fell in this way.
We were
and
all like,
immediately,
what?
Yeah, immediately he changed. Because he realized what his actions have done. And what his selfishness of trying to be the best, trying to prove himself, how it got other people not just hurt, but killed.
Yeah.
And I think he took on a more serious disposition after that. And then he was building a really tight bond with another one of the party members. They were like best friends. And then he died. Fairly recently. And that just wrecked him.
Well, I don't think that was really a role. I mean, it kind of was, but
he fell into depression, and he wanted to leave.
Yeah.
One of the other players had to stop him because he was like, I can't protect the people around me. I can't. I'm not a hero. I'm not a leader. I'm not a protector. I'm a bad person, and the people around me die, and I can't protect the ones that I love. And that was a big change, right? From when he started. Both are negative.
Yes.
One, he's way too arrogant. One, he was just depressed and didn't believe in himself and stuff. And one of the other player characters gave a really good monologue and was able to talk him out of it and stick with the party. And also, at this point, they've realized that he is integral because of his heritage to an ancient hero. And a prophecy, he is integral to defeating the big bad in the campaign. he's like one of the chosen ones, right? But he doesn't want to be anymore, right? I mean, like, what a change.
Yeah.
From wanting to be hero to like being more of a reluctant hero, because now he's seen what his, he didn't have humility and really what war is and what battle is. It's just losing people that you care about.
Absolutely.
And one of the other player characters had to convince him, like, look at all the good we've done. Look at all the people that we've saved, and we still have.
It's
to
moments
do that
like
stuff.
those where I wish I would have kept a log for this campaign, but I didn't expect it to
Yeah.
go very far, so I wasn't gonna waste my time making one. But that was a big mistake, and I definitely am gonna start making, not in the right away, but future campaigns I'm gonna make a log. I might even
I think that's
when we
really
return
important,
back to
Randy,
Dragonstone, I might even start making one.
Yeah, it took me like 12 sessions to start making a log on my first campaign. I had to reach back into my memory to remember what happened. But yeah, that's his arc. Once again, he's far from other. He still has to figure out his identity, and it looks like his arc is beginning to kind of turn to like him being like a leader.
Yeah.
And being a humble, smart, caring leader who is still has his bravery from the beginning, but is now has matured and stuff. That kind of looks like the direction that he's going.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's something you keep in mind as a player. Think about where your character's going, right? Where you think they're going next. They're not going to grow if you don't really know where they're going.
Yeah.
Now, you don't really want to like always like force growth or whatever, but like, yeah. My biggest thing that I would say, biggest suggestion, you want to think every time you sit down at the table, every session, how can you further your character's arc?
Mm-hmm.
Everything that happens during that session, what people say to you, what you're able to accomplish, how does that change your character? How does that further them along the character arc? That's what I thought of. Every session I sat down, I'm okay, so what is Philippocles, what's going to happen today going to further his arc? And the section where that one player died because of his foolhardiness definitely progressed him along the arc.
Yeah.
He learned from that. And then when he was not able to like slay this like beast, like that was like really horrible to him, that he wasn't like a hero and that he wasn't able to like do the most basic hero thing, which was like kill this monster. And all this kind of stuff. Sit down each session, think about how has this session, at the end of the session, how has my character kind of changed? It can be really slight, it can be really big, but because of what happened in that session, and that is how you will create a satisfying character arc.
Mm-hmm.
Mark my words. Okay. Wow. Is there any final notes you'd like to say about creating compelling characters?
I really liked your comment on how does this change, or how this session further my character's arc, and I'll definitely be using that from now on because I never even thought of that, and that could potentially even help in like what is it, like when PCs are during like role playing parts, because I feel like a lot of role playing parts I'm just there stuck like, oh my, what is my character gonna say, like but I feel like if I'm just straight off in the mindset from the beginning of the game, and just you probably thought that moment when what was it when I said what's more important, their safety or them liking you. That was
okay. So something happened last session that was too it was written. It was so perfect. An interaction between Riley and another one of the characters. We're not going to get into it, but like, it totally had to do with a lesson that like he just learned. Riley just learned, and then it was like applying to this other character, and then and then Brendan said the line, and like it would just work. It was so perfect, like it was written. Oh my gosh!
I didn't even consciously realize that I said that. But like, that is absolutely what he would have said in that moment.
Yeah, but it was perfect.
Yeah.
It was perfect.
So maybe we can have more things like that if I just, and especially like if you, the player, think of that line too in the beginning, like how will I further my character's arc today, or at the very end of the session.
Yeah, I mean
like,
literally
how did today
after
further my character's arc.
After Philippocles' best friend died, for the next 2 sessions, I'm depressed. That was my focus. That's what I focused on. Because usually he was a very charismatic, like ha 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 kind of guy. But literally the next 2 sessions, I just focused on he needs to be depressed right now and processing what's going on. And I feel like that happened. That happened, and that just came across. And usually, like they're like looking for him for coming up with a plan and stuff like that, and he just didn't.
Yeah.
He didn't talk a lot during those sessions, because they were still coming off of his best friend dying and stuff. And so, like, just what can you do every session, right, to develop your character even more? Thank you so much for listening to this week's episode. Brendan, thank you so much for coming on.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
Replacing Gabe. Hey guys, look out for the next session of One Piece. Coming out Friday. Yes, Friday. Jim's GM. Brendan is GMing. I'm playing in it. Gabe's playing in it. This one's crazy. It's going to be a lot of fun, so go ahead and look out for that. Of course, follow us on Instagram at D20_Academy. Hop onto our Discord. Go to our YouTube, D20academy.com. I just released a really fun video where I ranked the 5v races on a tier list. And of course, if you are a GM looking to launch your own campaign, hop over to D20academy.com. I have everything you need. Thank you so much for listening, and we will see you next week. Bye-bye.